1876, the Canadian Crown and 70 First Nations throughout Alberta, Saskatchewan, and parts of Manitoba signed Treaty 6. The Crown was looking to increase immigration to the northwest and control the lands therein. While some First Nations communities signed it as a means of survival and adaptation to a changing country and economy. Treaty 6 differed from its predecessors in the specific promises it made, including assurances that the Crown would supply its agents with medicine chests, provide on-reserve education, supply farming tools, and protect the communities from famine and pestilence. These promises were not kept. There was miscommunication between the two parties. The First Nation signatories saw the treaties as agreements to share the land with the Crown, but the Crown believed the treaties were a surrendering of the land. In 1884, west of Fort Edmonton, 44 sections of land was reserved for the Enoch Cree Nation. But by 1908, half of that land had been surrendered involuntarily back to the Crown, including access to the North Saskatchewan River. One of those responsible for the forced surrender was Edmonton's first newspaper publisher, Francis Oliver, who went on to become Minister of the Interior and General Superintendent of Indian Affairs. Oliver used his power to justify the terrible treatment of First Nation people. Despite the promises of on-reserve education, children were instead separated from their families and forced to attend federally funded residential schools, two of which were located in the Edmonton region. These schools were operated by religious organizations who considered it their mission to replace the children's traditional culture with white Christian ideology, an effort that is seen today as cultural genocide. This effort continued into the 60s, when the government removed First Nations children from their homes entirely, rather than improve the conditions of the reserves in which they were born. Now referred to as the 60s scoop, this policy saw thousands of children placed in non-Indigenous families, often experiencing racism and abuse.
They tried to assimilate us, that we were not to talk our language. They were trying to take the Indian out of us.
The intergenerational trauma it inflicted can still be felt today. For generations, Enoch Cree Nation and the City of Edmonton had been neighbours, but relationships were either strained or non-existent. Edmontonians have begun to challenge the ideas and attitudes propagated towards First Nations amidst a changing Canadian landscape.
We now recognize that it was wrong to separate children from rich and vibrant cultures and traditions, that it created a void in many lives and communities, and we apologize for having done this.
Long overdue apology.
We are sorry for what has taken place.
Recognizing this legacy of harmful colonial policies and broken promises, the neighboring governments took their first steps towards working together meaningfully in ways that could enrich both communities. One of these steps was the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding, which acknowledges both the shared histories of Edmonton and Enoch, and a commitment to form a lasting and worthwhile relationship as neighbours, built on shared values. The renewed relationship between Enoch Cree Nation and the City of Edmonton will help to ensure the mutual prosperity of both communities, while maintaining the rights and jurisdiction each holds.